Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have Kieran back on for another interview. We did one a long time ago, so we've got a bit of catching up to do on what's going on. The main things we're going to be looking at is going to be Illuvium 0, the land sale coming up, obviously, a bit of Illuvitars, and then I want to dig into what's happening with the mobile version of the game. So first of all, Kieran, welcome back. How you been, man?
Thanks, Falcon. Always good to be on your channel. Love my fellow Australians, but yeah, doing really well. A little bit tired at the moment. I think we've got a bunch of spinning plates at the moment that we just need to bet down. But yeah, doing well.
Beautiful. I see no more trolling on Twitter as well, which is probably a good move, but a bit sad for me because it was a bit of entertainment, but well played on that one.
I'm not going to say it's 100% stamped out. There's always room for the Kieran troll to come back. But yeah, there's a little bit of a change in the air, and I'm trying to be. When we first started this, and we had 10,000 people, and in the community, it was not anywhere near the exposure that we have now. It's probably prudent to be a little bit more mature and do a little bit less trolling and antagonizing of other protocols, but I'm not saying I'm going to eliminate it completely. That's for sure.
Beautiful. But I just want to get a quick roundup. Firstly, obviously we're still set for the Q1 2020 release, 2022 release date. Have you got any rough estimates? When I heard that, I just went, all right, straight to the end of March for the release date. Is that sort of what you guys are planning on? Anything above that, before that, is it like a bonus?
Yeah, 100%. So we want to get to a stage where we release with at least 3 biomes on the opening beta. We've actually engaged a couple of teams to potentially bring that forward in terms of creating new biomes and the potential to go out with 5. I'm not guaranteeing it, but it is a possibility. But will the game be released in Jan or Feb? Very unlikely.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I figured. And closed beta, when are you looking at starting a closed beta?
Aaron wants to get that set up pretty quickly. So sometime he was talking about sometime in December. I think that's a little bit unrealistic. I think it's probably more mid-Jan. But because it's closed, it can be it can be done in parallel to a bunch of other stuff that we're doing. We'll set up that feedback loop and get that started. But again, yeah, probably close to mid-Jan.
Yeah. And land sale, we're looking at Jan. I know you said I think it was over on Discord that like you could have it ready by mid-December, but it's like not an optimal time to do it. So you're still looking at that January type time frame.
Yeah, it's basically the way that we did things in the past was come out with a date that is the closest to humanly possible, and sometimes not even humanly possible, for us to be able to actually deliver on what it is. You saw that with the trailer launch. Literally, Grant was working with his team on that, like,
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes post, and it was actually meant to be released. So that's kind of what we had done in the past. Now that we've brought Scott on from Twitch and Veronica from Riot and a bunch of other marketing people, we've kind of taken the crazy reins away from me, which for the longevity and moving into the future of the protocol, that's a very good thing. But what it means is that we're doing things a lot more systematically, and part of that, from my perspective, I was like, all right, sweet, we've got the land sale, it's all good, the UI looks great, the back end's done, we've got the smart contracts there. We are still waiting on the audit, but I'm going to push Richard from QuantStamp as much as I can to get that done, by mid-December, and then we're away on the 16th. And Scott was like, dude, like, whoa. We don't have any time to market it. We don't even know what are the parameters of the sale. They hadn't been confirmed yet. And also, I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing called Christmas, but people kind of go away around that time. They're not like you where they have no life. And
Thanks.
so, yeah, I know I can say that because
I
you're
genuinely
also
have
one of
no
those
life.
people. Yeah. Yeah. And so you're right in that it probably in the old days we would push it and we would get it out this side of this year, but we are not that organization anymore, and we're trying to be a lot more, yeah, as I said, systematic around our marketing. And what it's going to mean is, yes, a delay. And I don't have an exact date of when we're thinking in Jan. It will definitely be in Jan. It's not going to be in late Jan. So we're talking probably the first couple of weeks of Jan. But again, that's not a firm date. But one thing will be for sure, the level of rigor that we have in terms of marketing the event will be much, much higher than usual. You'll start to see that across the board with things like elections and just general proposals that go through. We're trying to be a lot more organized across the board, and hopefully what that translates into is a lot more exposure on the sale, which for Illuvium token holders, it's going to be beneficial in how much revenue we generate, which, as you know, goes back to those token holders.
Yep, 100%. Now, we just had Aaron release the early draft of an IIP for the land sale, and we can see the prices in there and how many are being listed. The first question I have is, like, we are doing it in blocked releases. Like, this first sale is, what, 20,000 plots? Then we're going to have more sales. Are all the sales going to be public, or are you going to do, because I saw, like, Big Time do, like, a big private sale to guilds. Is that going to happen with Illuvium, or is it all going to be public sale?
Never in a million years will we ever do any special private sales or whatever. I remember I actually missed this around the time that I was sick, or maybe probably if you ask Aaron, he would say that I just forgot about it or didn't realize. But they put in the part of the land sale originally was that there will be a whitelisting for people with a Dawnlight badge or some kind of badge. I think it was a gold badge and upwards. And I don't agree with that in itself, let alone going to guilds saying that you get, the first dibs on it. You've seen how crazy I believe from the outset, the fact that we're one of the only gaming companies that in this space or DAOs in this space that doesn't offer pre-sales, that doesn't sell their NFTs before they get, like, we wanted to open up right now alluvial sales. Can you imagine how crazy that would be if we're like, go out and buy a Ramfire, go about like, but it can, yes, we're going to go and generate $500 million in revenue or $1 billion in revenue in crazy amounts of alluvial sales, but it's going to absolutely butcher the balance of the game. And you're going to get a whole bunch of these people who are whales, who have all the best assets, all the highest tiers. And that's not, we're not building this game once again for people to earn money. That's an ancillary benefit to having fun inside this game. And if we ruin the balance, that's not going to happen.
And on top of that, and like, so, you're taking away the earning potential from those lower spending players who want to grind out and sell to those whales. So it's just like you're burning the balance for mid spenders against whales, and then you're burning the lower spenders for their earning capacity, because some people will actually do that.
Correct. And yeah, and so that's been our ethos from day one. And I think people like that. Like, and I think people are understanding, yeah, okay, I was here and I was, part of the first 10,000 people. But if you disparage the following 500,000 people that come into the protocol that are going to take your token price from 100 to 1,500, what do you want, right? Do you want your one piece of early access land? Or do you want your 15x on your 100K token investment or 10K token? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. 100%.
If you make it a fair and balanced protocol across the board, and there's never any benefits for being early or being a guild or fucking being Santa Claus or whatever it is, then everyone feels the most comfortable to spend their money. So you end up deriving more value out of each person simply because they feel like it's more fair.
Yep, 100%. And then with the land sale, so that's first of all a good one, because I was really curious on that side of things. But I copped a bit of heat in the comments on my last video where I said it seemed a bit cheap. Now, Illuvium's land sale is such a weird one because of the existence of SILV and the staking system, meaning there's so many people with so much currency that's almost like just game currency that's like not tied to their sort of financial wealth in a sense. So it's like really weird because the prices in ETH seem really expensive for someone coming in, but because we have all this SILV in the ecosystem, it sort of makes it an awkward one. Now you can still balance the prices obviously in the future, but obviously if ILV keeps going the way it's going, which is just ridiculous, would you adjust it to make it more expensive, or based on feedback, would you make it cheaper? Or what's your general view on the pricing of it, and what was the process? Because it's just such a hard one for me to pick, because like the other thing for me is that land to me is an investment. You've got the tier zeros, which are effectively a tier 4 land. So if someone doesn't have the cash and they want to experience it, they can experience the land gameplay. So I view the land as more of an investment, which would be optimal for basically the whole ecosystem if it went as expensive as possible. And the other consideration that I have is because there's all these people with so much just basically free credit in SILV, with the scheduled releasing of the land over 3 days, it sort of seems like it'll be a gas war where these people who have all the SILV, they're not really paying anything, so they just crank up their gas and get the transactions in. So that was a lot of shit that I just said, but if you can unpack that piece by piece.
100%. I'm more than happy to. So firstly, I apologize to you in getting heat in those comments. You definitely shouldn't have had that occur. And secondly, I apologize to Johnny, our CTO, who has been the main guy who designed Illuvium Zero. He's been one of the main builders, and he's the smarts behind the whole concept. For the first time in my life, I've underpriced something, and it was actually me who was pushing back on what Johnny was saying should be the starting prices, and I basically said to him, "You're crazy. Like and the reason is, right, me telling someone they're crazy for wanting to put higher prices, it just doesn't exist. I've never in my entire life, I'm always the guy where someone's like, that's insane. We're never going to get to that stage. But I think over time, two things have occurred. People realize how our tokenomics actually work now. And obviously the balancer sale was a good education of how a Dutch auction works. And so the first part is that people realize that, okay, if I can't afford to go and buy a plot of land because it's too highly priced, but that is the fair market value that literally the market deems is the correct price, and you get that purely from having a Dutch auction. The mechanism irons that out itself. But I think when we first started in the balancer sale and we were trying to educate our community on do not ape into this, we have literally put the price higher than we think is even close to reasonable, on the basis of it allows the mechanism to work, and the Dutch auction will slowly start chipping away at it. It'll start declining in price, and people can choose their entry point. I think I shouldn't say somehow, but I think it's worked. That education process, there was enough people, there was enough core members who participated in that balancer sale that realized, okay, this actually is a fair mechanism, and I'm going to make that work. And so what that has done has it's made people go, we get this mechanism now. It needs to be astronomically higher, and we get it now. We'll wait. We don't want these gas wars. And so, first thing is that I think, yeah, people actually understand that concept now and have realized that this is going to turn into a gas war. And so that is very apparent now. And the beautiful thing about our decentralized governance is that someone can come out and put out an IIP. And if it's not going to be someone in the community, it'll be me, myself. I need to make amends to Johnny for going out with such low pricing. But yeah, it's without a doubt, it's definitely going to turn into gas wars. And the worst type of gas wars, in that you're not even spending ETH, you're spending your SILV, which, as you say, it's like your in-game credits, and you're getting taxed on those in-game credits with a bunch of ETH, because we push up we congest the network, and all of a sudden it turns into the gas wars. And you've got situations where 10 people are trying to buy the same plot because it's so cheap and they can't buy it, and then 9 people out, they and their gas, and et cetera, et cetera. So my take on it, to unpack what you're saying, we did fuck it up. The second thing that's factoring in here is that we've tied it to the price of ILV, which we can't get around that. But as ILV continues to go up in price, and we're talking nearly 100% from when we set these prices, all of a sudden, if everyone uses SILV, even at the highest price possible, all of the land will be sold, right?
Yep.
Through SILV. Now that's the second part that I was going into, that people realize, and why they're literally saying charge us more for things, which I don't know about you, but I've never experienced that in my life,
Yeah.
right?
And I just want to jump in quickly and just say, like, this isn't to look down on people who can't afford land or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just purely from an economic standpoint and what's good for the economy of the game. Like, I might, like, me, myself, I might try and get one piece of land, but, like, I'm not going for a heap of land. I just think it's best for the whole ecosystem if we can get rid of as much SILV as possible
100%.
before the game comes out. And I just wanted to jump in and clarify that, because I just didn't want, like, some people take it offensively on that, but that's not what we're actually getting at. But sorry, continue.
Try being in a council meeting telling people, like, the same thing happened with the Louvitar, right? It's if you think about your own agenda as a single person in the ecosystem, fucking oath, I want 10 Illuvitars that I got for $1, and then I want everyone else to buy them at $10 million. Like, of course, human greed is going to come into play, but the upside that single person gets would be larger if the entire group bought at an appropriate price, and then all of that revenue, which is where I was getting at with that, the second part of the changing of the thinking of and the education of how our tokenomics work. If you're priced out of it because of whatever reason, maybe you aped into another protocol, and not saying that you don't have any money and you're a cheap person and we should lambast you for that or whatever, and exclude you, you don't need to worry, because you're in this ecosystem, you're staked in the protocol. There's absolutely no reason, unless you bought literally like $100 worth of ILV and the gas doesn't make sense. But if you bought ILV, you're holding the governance token, you should be staked in the protocol. If you're priced out, you should be sitting there going, fucking let's jack these prices up by 100x, because the entire protocol is going to generate more revenue, and that revenue is going to go back into your pocket. This is not like a system where you have a centralized entity which is taking 90% of the profits, and a small portion of shareholders get dividends every 3 months. This is literally a system where whatever value goes in gets extracted out and distributed back to the people who are staked. So that's why we're seeing this phenomenon, and I'll call it that because it's fucking crazy.
It's so weird.
I'm sitting there going, oh my God. First of all, I hate being wrong, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm like, I was dead wrong about the pricing. I didn't think we would go up so much, and we would need to adjust the pricing by 100% anyway if we wanted to stick to the ratio of pricing that we had based on the price of ILV a month ago, right? So at the very least, if people trust that the Illuvium core contributors know what they're doing in terms of pricing, which I can wholeheartedly say that if you're asking me, I have no idea anymore because I was so far off. But it's at least 100% off, which is the growth that we've had, and that would be the equalized pricing that we would have had we run this sale a month ago, right? So that's why I say, the people in the comments and whatever, they weren't meant to be this cheap, right? And so that needs to be factored in. But also now that I see that people actually understand how Dutch auctions are so much fairer in their way of distribution and allowing people that price point to go in where they feel comfortable, I would say, yeah, we can 4 or 5x the pricing of these land plots because we know that people aren't going to ape in. We'll put out, a massive announcement explaining this is why we've increased it, or, this is why we're writing a new IIP to replace the first one, and this is why the council thinks it's more optimized for this sale. I think people will wait until that perfect spot. Plus, it'll also factor in that we need to generate some amount of revenue that isn't just SILV, right? And I've got some ideas around as well what we could potentially do with that SILV. Like, could we add that to its own pool of in-game rewards, right? And so people who are playing are earning more SILV. I spoke to Aaron about that this morning. But I'm only thinking about that because I don't want a situation where it's like, yay, land sale complete, 250 million raised but we only have 245 million of SILV sitting here, and we have 5 million of ILV. And yes, to your point, that means that the SILV is removing the ILV from the system, which is, effectively a burn mechanic and very, very advantageous to the token price. But I think I have an inkling, and again, I could be wrong. I seem to be wrong a lot lately. I have an inkling that people want to see revenue distributions working at a grand scale where they're getting their weekly dividend and they know this is why I bought the ILV token. And I think if we can do that, plus that it's only going to make things like the Illuvitars sale and anything else that we do in the future so much bigger, just purely because people know, oh, I love these sales. I'm happy to spend money because I know it comes back to me.
Yep. 100%. And like you said, like everyone is always like, what's happening with revenue distribution? Everyone just wants to see it actually go into their dashboard and be like, look, guys, more free money. Like that's what everyone's looking for. So I think it'll be interesting. I'll definitely keep an eye out. The other thing with that is if you do increase the prices to a range that is too high, like in Dutch auction terms, it will actually make people wait, and it'll mean that the people who might be buying multiple pieces of land and trying to get the most, they will wait that period because they don't want to buy every piece of land at a premium. However, the person that just wants one piece of land for like a collecting purpose and to save, they might go that little bit more expensive because then they can get that land that they were looking for. So I think that like opens it up to more people. But obviously you guys will number crunch, and who knows, you'll probably do it, and then by the time land sale comes around, it'll be completely different again. But I wanted to ask you something because a little birdie that I know got into me about your wallet history. Now, I wanted to know if you're planning on buying any land, because I saw you did a big dump of SILV a little bit back. So I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so I did something that any true DGen would do, and I weighed up my options when I did prior to Illuvium starting. A lot of people know I was a massive DGen. I was in something like I've got if no one's there's a wallet that no one's seen, and it's attached to a pseudonym that I probably don't even want to get out. But I was in probably 100 different protocols over a 6 month period. And so there is a very, very big degen inside of me. And when Illuvium started, I made the call that, okay, this is going to take up every bit of your time. You need to stop investing in other things. And I did for like a 6 month period, and I've started back up now. But for that moment, I said to myself, I said, okay, you need to make a bet, right? Like you've taken I took 100 grand and I made something like 1.2 million in the space of 9 months, right? And I looked at that and I went, okay, what is my biggest opportunity to maximize that capital while I'm building Illuvium? And back at $60 when I was looking at Illuvium and knowing everything that I know, because I'm one of the co-founders and I know what we're building, and I'm very bullish in the space and whatever. There was nothing else. Like the only other thing that I would have put it in is potentially ETH, and that's because I think by the end of next year it's going to go to 10K. But I had a price target of $1,000 for Illuvium. And on top of that, there's 500% staking rewards. And so I was looking at it, but then you think, why on earth does the largest holder of ILV need to buy more ILV, right? It fundamentally makes no sense, right? Especially when you factor in that the locking period for those team tokens is actually those team tokens are going to start unlocking at an earlier date than the tokens that I locked up that were just from my personal investments,
Yep.
right? And so if you think about that, I'm going to be sitting there from a purely capital perspective. I'm going to be sitting there waiting an additional 4 months for that 12 months, because I locked it for 12 months because of course I'm a super degen and I wanted the maximum
Yeah.
return that I could get. And so essentially I locked this up, and I'm going to be having, not that I'm going to sell any tokens or have any plans to do so or whatever, but I'm going to have a ridiculous amount of ILV unlocking on a daily basis prior to this other capital that I have locked up, right? So for 4 months, I'm going to be sitting there theoretically earning a whole bunch of ILV that starts unlocking like a very, very, very large amount, much, much, much larger than what my return is on the capital that I locked up. And so, but I just couldn't say no.
Yeah.
I just couldn't say no. I'm not going to be able to access that money, and the returns were just too high. And like I'm looking at it now, and I think we spoke about this prior, but I had something like I invested something like 500,000, and it's now including all my SILV, my ILV, the SLP that I have staked, the ILV that I have staked. So like 17 million. But again, that's 17 million that I'm going to access 4 months after my whatever millions in team tokens
And
when
that's
they
yeah,
start unlocking.
that's not including your team tokens. That's your own degen gamble that you put into Illuvium because you back the project, and then thankfully the SILV liquidity pool started up, and that's your way to actually take revenue on your bets, essentially.
Well, thankfully, yeah, no. So, yeah, I must say that I was. So the point of that whole story was I aped in, I didn't think about it, and it was, probably would have been a better situation to sit there and go, okay, I'm going to keep this liquidity for other investments, for living. Like I literally drained my bank account to do this because I was like, it's such a high return. I just can't say no to it. But now that I'm not even going to have access to that, it doesn't make sense. And so I started thinking, and I was like, I remember back when I mentioned this to Aaron, I was kind of like, yeah, but we've got the land sale coming up. We're going to do Illuvitars. It'd be pretty cool if we could like use the SILV for that as well. And like, it was thinking about it in greedy terms. I'm sitting there going like, I can't even access this money. How am I going to access it? I've got no money for the next 12 months until my actual team tokens start unlocking. This is stupid. And Aaron was like, yeah, that's an awesome way. Then we're going to get a whole bunch of people burning SRV. And I was like, yeah, got that across the line.
Well
and so,
played.
yeah, so that's why you're seeing large dumps of SRV on the market. I'm sure I'm going to regret it later when people, I think, and it's already starting to happen, but as the land sale gets closer and closer, more people are realizing that, hey, you can pick up Kieran's dumbass sale of SILV at $300, and then you can go and utilize that at the $1,900 price point to pick up land that is probably going to, multiply in value anyway. How dumb is he? But that is the thought process behind doing that. So I actually, unless you desperately need liquidity and you locked up your life savings like I did, then I suggest holding out, not selling that SRV and buying the land, because you're probably going to end up in a better place than what you are selling your SRV liquidity for like an 80% discount.
Not financial advice. Anyway, moving
100%,
on.
not financial advice.
Moving on from that, because I know we're a bit tight on time. The next thing we're going to try and quickly get through this. Illuvitars, you've mentioned them a couple of times. What's the basics of Illuvitars and time frame, if you've got that as well?
Yeah, so again, it's a lot of things are going to be happening in Jan, but if not late Jan, we're thinking early Feb. So it will definitely be before the open beta access. But essentially, the IIP's draft right now, what we've gone with is a little bit different in that it's an avatar project, but instead of having 10,000, we thought that was a little bit unfair in terms of when you've got 750,000 people that have registered to play Illuvium, and you're saying only 10,000 people can gain access to that avatar.
Yep.
That's a bit shit. And so we decided to make it an unlimited amount of base portraits that you can mint. We're starting off with 15 Illuvials in what we're calling the Illuvitars in the Genesis set. And so similarly to Illuvials in Illuvium, when the set finishes, you can no longer mint that portrait or Illuvial. And so what we want to happen is we make these bases unlimited, so anyone can jump in. You can go and mint 200,000 of them if you wanted to. Where they become rare is the accessory slots that are available for you to start putting stuff on. So you can buy. There's different tiers of loot boxes, which will give you different tiers of accessories. The tiers are basically based around the rarity level of what is in the actual loot box. But then you can take that. You don't have to, but you have the ability to then apply that accessory. It might be a tattoo, it might be sunglasses, a hat, a badge, whatever it is, to your Illuvitar, and then it binds it, and so it's bound permanently. And then you have the ability to take that avatar. You can chuck it as your Twitter profile or any sort of obviously external social media. But the main usage for it is to be your in-game avatar across Illuvium Zero, Illuvium, and any other titles that we bring out. And so it's just a little way to personalize your avatar. It's something that if you get a really rare item, you can also get them from in-game.
Yep.
So let's say you go and win a tournament, for example, you might get there might be like a gold, silver, and bronze badge that you get from that specific tournament. You can then apply that badge to your Illuvitar, showing people, hey man, don't fuck around with me. I'm legit. I've won a tournament before, and it's just a way to show off your avatar.
And with that,
And
is
again,
there going to be like tier 0, like a free avatar, or
yes.
So it's the way that I'm getting at is it's more of a community based one, whereas a lot of the 10,000 projects are like sort of trying to make money, whereas this is more of a shout out to the community. But if you're in first and the game blows up, then it might have some value, but it's more of just being part of it early.
100%. Yeah, we do. Louvitar's it obviously is connected to the same revenue mechanism that the entire system is, in that all the revenue will funnel through to the Illuvium vault. And so that's going to be more of a constant revenue stream, because these Illuvitars are going to be available on the website, whether it's set 1, set 2, set 3, set 4, they're always going to be available. Yes, there is going to be some revenue generation, but you're right in the sense that we want everyone to be able to have an avatar in the game. Obviously, if you're earlier and you pick the squiz and you get a really rare squiz and that's no longer available, and then let's say you get an accessory that was only early on achievable and you chuck that on your squiz, 2 years down the track, someone's going to be like, fuck, I really want that OG avatar. Like,
yeah.
But that guy's going to be holding on to it for dear life because he's like, I know how rare that is. That will naturally create value in that avatar over time, but it's by no means a profit exercise, generating exercise where we're trying to make it, untouchable for everyone. We want every single person to be able to mint an avatar.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add in, because you touched on it at the end there, some people may not know what the Illuvitars actually are, but they're actual Illuvials that are going to be the avatars. I just thought I'd throw that in because I just realized a lot of people might not know that. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I thought we spoke about it earlier, but yeah, no, you're right. So we literally used the portrait of, starting off, 15 Illuvials that are out there. There's a lot of the really popular OGs are going to be in that set 1. So if you're listening to this, or if you're in the Illuvium Discord, then my suggestion would be to get amongst this set 1. But at the same time, designed in a way where every single Illuvial will be presented over the next 2 years. You will be able to mint your one. It might be that yours is in mint number 9, right? Where you're waiting for thylacine and that one just hasn't popped up yet. And if that's the case, it's a little bit of tough luck, but there will always be the ability for you to go and mint an avatar. It's just, random which one you get.
Yeah, 100%. And because we are running tight on time, I want to see if I can quickly get it off here. I saw you do a tweet about the mobile version of the game, talking about development of it and stuff. I was just wondering where that's at, because for me, I just think the mobile is it's just a huge platform to get so many extra players. And I was just and especially like the monetization side of like NFT gaming in general. People always talk about, Fortnite skins, but I always compare it to mobile games because people are spending thousands of dollars every month in those things. And I'm like, that's the best transition of players to get into it. So are you guys speeding up development, or what's going on with that one?
Yeah, we definitely are. So it's one thing, and I know you're a massive mobile gamer. So it is something that we probably should have put more focus on in the beginning. What we didn't realize is that what's happening now in the market is that there's obviously, you've got your 3 billion gamers or your 2.8 billion gamers that have been playing mainstream games. There's a huge cohort of new gamers that are entering the ecosystem that would, not necessarily playing any games. They had their 9-to-5 jobs, and they're switching over to play to earn gaming. And the vast majority of this new cohort that are coming in are from developing nations. And the issue with that is they don't have the same level of capital as, say, North America, China, Korea, and all these other places where they're desktop predominant gamers. And so in having this beautiful no barrier to entry into being able to play the Illuvium game is amazing. But when you say to someone, actually, you need a desktop to play it, all of a sudden you've created a barrier to entry, at least for these developing nations. And so that was a huge learning aspect for us to go, okay, fuck, we've kind of missed the mark on this, and we were going to focus purely on the desktop users to start off with. Now we can't deny the play to earn users. I actually believe that by the end of next year, we're going to have somewhere to the tune of 100 million new play to earn gamers that are entering this ecosystem looking for in-game yield. Now, 100 million players, that's what we're trying to get to in terms of our DAUs. And so it's something that we need to bring forward. We can't be in a situation where we're waiting 2 years for the mobile version to come out. There'll be competitors that just eat us up during that time. And so bit of a leak, I guess, and something that I've been discussing with council is we're looking to do a very large capital raise. It'll be our Series A. Haven't worked out how I want to do it exactly. We have been in talks with a bunch of very, very high-level VCs that write large check sizes, and we're talking about like 150 mil raise in order to go out and build a team of mobile-first developers that can bring forward the release of the mobile game by probably 6 to 12 months. The reason I say I haven't worked out how exactly we're going to do the sale is I want to somehow involve the public as well. We're a unique situation in that because we're a DAO first project, we don't have any equity. And so what Sky Mavis did with Axie Infinity is they actually they didn't raise through a token price and a token event in the actual AXS token. They raised it through equity in their Sky Mavis company. Now, because we don't have that same ability, we need to go out and somehow give the same level of participation to the public as VCs. Otherwise, we're going to get this pushback and say, well, look, a capital raise of this size is going to require a discount on market price. It just is. Now, we will get to come up with parameters around that lock up those investors for a very long period of time. And because of that, that's why they'll demand to get a discount on market. And they're putting in not $1,000, they're putting in $10 million. So there are things that you need to accommodate for these large scale investors. But at the same time, we need to give the same terms, I believe, to the public as well. And so I have a couple of ideas. Aaron's got a couple of ideas about how we can actually set that up and make it so it's a smart contract where people, if you do want to participate in this sale, you can. The only issue that we have right now is that and I mean, it's a good problem to have, but the token price just doesn't stop going up. And so when we first started these conversations, we were talking about a 6 billion valuation in terms of the Series A. That was meant to be a % discount, right? Now we're at something like 19 billion. So at what I mean, an 8.5 billion valuation for a capital raise, regardless of crypto, regardless of it would be the largest raise by market cap GameFi by like 4 times. We're talking 4 times the value of Axie.
Yeah.
Pre-launch, pre-revenue. It's a very, very, very tall order, right? But at the same time, why the fuck am I going to go on the market and buy the token at $1,800 if you're going to go and give a 50% discount to someone? There's got to be pros and cons of both sides of this. And so I know that's a long-winded answer, but it's very complex how we're actually going to do this. But yes, to answer your question, we are bringing forward the mobile release, and yes, we are going to do that through a capital raise. How that works, I'm not 100% sure yet.
Beautiful. Well, I think that just about does us. We've gone a bit over time, but I really do appreciate the time, dude. Anything else you want to say before you leave, or you're all good?
No, that's pretty much it. You always tend to get some kind of a leak out of me, so congratulations.
Too good, man. I really appreciate it, dude. But anyway, guys, a fair bit in that. I'll probably make a few videos out of this. some good info. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome day, and we'll look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.